All right, welcome everybody. This is Dave with Alum House Sound. Today, we're gonna be doing a Q&A video. Before the summertime, I was doing Q&A shorts where I would take the phone and I would flip it upright and I would do the YouTube shorts, which are 60 seconds or less. I would answer one question. Pretty much every other day, I was answering a question a day. And I actually got comments where people were like, bro, turn your camera sideways, stop shooting vertical. I get it. They just didn't get the message that YouTube has this new thing called shorts. It's fine. Somebody else tell them. We're going to move on. And what I'm going to do is just take a handful of questions that have come in this week, and I'm going to answer them as best as I can. We'll edit the video down, and hopefully you'll find some value in it. If you do find value in it, let me know in the comments section. That's how I figure out if I'm going to keep doing it this way or if I'm going to change. So let's jump into some questions, shall we? All right, question number one comes from Antonio, and he says, do you need a capture card, Elgato, or an iRig, or anything else to get the audio from an X32 into your streaming machine? So, Antonio, no, this is the best thing about being in the digital realm is that your digital console is, in fact, an interface. So on the back of this console has the XUSB connector, and you can hook up a cable, a USB cable, and run it right into your streaming computer, and boom, there you go, you're gonna get audio. Now, you do need to make sure that you're routing things properly, and I've got a number of videos about that, whether you're gonna use a matrix mix, an aux mix, like I always end up using. You can find ways to route those into USB 1 and 2 to get a stereo signal into your computer. If you've got a Mac on your computer side, you can plug it in and it'll work. If you've got a Windows machine, you do need to go to the Behringer website, search for X32, find the XUSB driver, and go ahead and install that, and then you'll be good to go. Next question. All right, this question comes from Andrew. Andrew says, hey, I wanted to check and see whether I set up my mix Postfader or Prefader, so he's talking about his stream. I want to be able to mute and have it mute no matter where that input is going. He's talking about his drums are typically too hot, and sometimes he's going to turn those all the way down in his front of house. Will he still have them in his stream? So there's actually a lot wrapped up in this question. So first off, let's talk about the mute button. The mute button comes right after the preamp. So your microphone or your input comes into the console, hits the preamp, and then immediately hits that mute button. So you can mute it or unmute it, mute it or anyway, you can mute it, and it will mute no matter where that send is going. A Prefader MixBUS, an effects rack, anywhere else it could be going, even to your front of house. It will be muted no matter what type of location it's being sent to. Now, in terms of your faders and your front of house mix versus your live stream mix, you got two different options there. Typically speaking, you want your faders to be kind of high up towards that unity mark. Obviously, I've got the same situation. My cymbal fader is down pretty low in my house because I just don't need it. And therefore, I compensate in my stream by bringing that fader up above 0 a little bit for my post-fader mix. Now, in general, also, if that one is getting too high above unity in my stream mix, I might just generally turn everything else down. It's the concept that I usually use when I'm teaching about how do you make the shower feel good to you. If you want the shower to be hotter, you could do two things, right? You can either turn the hot water up or the cold water down. So subtractive mixing, turning the cold water down, in this case turning some of your other inputs down, will help accentuate or raise up the perception of that other input. So you got two options there. Another thing that some people will do is run those inputs into a bus that's specific for your house. So leave the faders up at unity so that your stream is starting with a unity signal. Send it to a bus, and the bus is what would go to your main left and right faders, and that one you can turn down. You can turn down the sends into the bus, or you can just turn down the bus, and that is a good way to get around keeping your faders more towards unity, but still having a good front of house mix and a great live stream mix. Next question. All right, so this question comes from Rockcore. I'm not going to pronounce the last name. Anyway, this person asks, is there a way of recording a session including all the EQ and compression, etc., and also the X32 effects? That would be great, he says. And I agree, that would be amazing. So what we have in a normal setup is the X32 brings in the capability of sending 32 tracks right across USB out the back in the X USB card. And that's amazing. And your signal comes in, hits the preamp, and then goes right out to your DAW. And you can record it, and that's greatly beneficial if you want to do some virtual sound checks, or if you want to do, raw recording, anything like that. It's set up to do that. It's a digital interface, which is 32 tracks in and out. It's amazing. Now, what it doesn't do by default is it does not capture your channel strip effects, your EQ, your compression, any insert effects that are in the console, like a de-esser or another compressor. It doesn't capture those into your recording on your DAW. So how can you get around that? We call this, drum roll please, the P16 trick. The P16 trick is where you have 16 channels that you could send out to the P16, which is an in-ear monitor tool that Behringer makes, and you can plug it in, Cat5. It's a pretty cool little deal. But what you can do is in the routing inside of the X32, you could take 16 inputs or mix buses or combinations of the two, and you can send them to the P16, or the Ultranet as it's called now in the newer versions of firmware. What you can do is figure out your tap point. So by default, the tap point might be pre-EQ. Well, you could do post-EQ, and that would include your compression and your EQ. You could do it later on in the chain, post-fader or pre-fader. You've got different options for where you can tap the signal sending into the P16. Here's the trick. You send these inputs into the P16 to capture all of your channel strip, and then you route the P16s out your USB. If you would like to see a video on the P16 trick, comment below. Give the video a thumbs up, but comment below and let me know you'd like to see a video on the P16 trick. I can put that together, and it's a real cool deal. I have used this before in the past, doing kind of a small group recording. We had all of the inputs lined up and tidied up and cleaned up, the compression, the EQ, and everything was right. And so we just went ahead and used the P16 trick, dumped it into the DAW, hit record, and did very minimal editing on the back end, post-production in the DAW, and it was great. One last question here for the day. All right, this question comes from Seguidores de Cristo. And this person says, Dave, so I copied this configuration. He did the aux bus, this live stream using an aux bus setup. He said, I copied your configuration. I added the limiter, and I left all of the routing to bus 1 and 2. Effectively, what he gets at is his audio sound is too low in his stream. How do I fix it? So the answer to this question is gain structure, gain structure, gain structure. It's always gain structure. And what we need to do is get out of the mindset that the house comes first. We want to set gain by what we see. My boy Dave Rat just did a great video on gain structure, and he just used this little analog console, and he was talking about noise floor and everything else. I'll see if I can link that down in the description. I haven't talked to Dave or anything like that. I don't know him personally, but I've learned a lot from Dave Rat, and I'm willing to put his video down there so you can go and check it out and learn for yourself. Back to this answer. So gain structure is where we want to start. We want to see, typically speaking, your gain on the input meter to be at -10 on the meter, okay? That's just across the board, set it at -10. My range is usually -9 to -12, but there's a line at -10 and it makes it real easy to know if you're there. So set your input gain to -10. Leave your main fader all the way down, or most of the way down, because when you set your gain properly, you might find out the thing that everybody finds out. Your amps are too loud. So we want to turn down the amps and actually tune your PA. Having too much PA means you have to turn something down. You could turn down the main fader. You could turn down your input fader, your actual instrument faders. You could turn down the gain, which is typically where it happens. Or you can turn down the signal coming into the board from your people on stage, the microphones, the keyboards, the amplifiers, whatever the case is. We want to keep everything up at a good solid level, and then take our amps and set the amps back to where they actually need to be, so that you get a good solid PA sound in your room and you've got a good quality signal to send to your stream. I'm actually going to link a video up here, and this video is a video that I did previously. I'll also put it in the description, and it talks about this concept of setting your gain properly so that your live stream is a strong signal to work with. Your compressors, your limiters aren't overworking, and you don't raise your noise floor way high and get into some predicaments. All right, that's it for this Q&A video. If you've got questions, feel free to leave them on this video or any other video. I'm always in the comment section answering questions, and who knows, they may come up in another Q&A video. Well, thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.